What is a case study? A case study may be a research methodology that has commonly been utilized in social sciences. It may be a research strategy and an empirical inquiry that investigates a phenomenon within its real-life context. A case study may be a descriptive and exploratory analysis of an individual, group, or event. A case study research is often single or multiple case studies include quantitative evidence, relies on multiple sources of evidence, and benefits from the prior development of theoretical propositions. Case studies are analyses of persons, groups, events, decisions, periods, policies, institutions, or other systems that are studied holistically by one or more methods. A case study involves an up-close, in-depth, and detailed examination of a specific case within its real-world context. For instance, a case study in medicine may specialize in a private patient or ailment. A case study in business might cover a specific firm's strategy or a broader market. Similarly, a case study in politics can range from a narrow happening over time, for example, a selected political campaign, to a huge undertaking, like a world war. Generally, a case study can highlight nearly a person, group, organization, event, belief system, or action. Historically, case studies for everybody have appeared altogether kinds of literature, journalistic outlets, and audiovisual modes. During this sense, many of us have produced case studies, both within but also well outside of the realm of formal teaching or research. During this broader marketplace, the essence remains the existence of a beautiful case, presented by a writer-composer who conveys a compelling message to her or his audience. Everyone, including yourself and no matter any prior training or specialization, can produce a case study. Your final product could also be considered a popular case study, to be shared among readers, colleagues, and friends. Case study has several subdivisions, each of which is custom selected to be used depending upon the goals of the investigator. These kinds of case study include the following. Illustrative case studies. These are primarily descriptive studies. They typically utilize one or two instances of an event to means the prevailing situation. Illustrative case studies serve primarily to make the unfamiliar familiar and to supply readers with a typical language about the topic in question. Exploratory, or pilot, case studies. These are condensed case studies performed before implementing an outsized-scale investigation. Their basic function is to help identify questions and choose kinds of measurements before the foremost investigation. The primary pitfall of this type of study is that initial findings could seem convincing enough to be released prematurely as conclusions. Cumulative case studies. These serve to build up information from several sites collected at different times. The thought behind these studies is that the gathering of past studies will leave greater generalization without additional cost or nonce expended on new, possibly repetitive studies. Critical instance case studies. These examine one or more sites either for the aim of examining a situation of unique interest with little to no interest in generalization or to call into question a highly generalized or universal assertion. This method is beneficial for answering cause and effect questions. Case studies have commonly been seen as fruitful, thanks to coming up with hypotheses and generate theories. Case studies also are useful for formulating concepts, which are a crucial aspect of theory construction. The concepts utilized in qualitative research will tend to possess higher conceptual validity than concepts utilized in quantitative research due to conceptual stretching, the unintentional comparison of dissimilar cases. Case studies add descriptive richness. Case studies are suited to elucidate outcomes in individual cases, which are some things that quantitative methods are less equipped to try to do. Through fine-grained knowledge and outline, case studies can fully specify the causal mechanisms in a way that will be harder during a large N study. Case studies of cases that defy existing theoretical expectations may contribute knowledge by delineating why the cases violate theoretical predictions and specifying the scope conditions of the idea. Case studies are useful in situations of causal complexity where there's equifinality, complex interaction effects, and path dependency. Case studies can identify necessary and insufficient conditions, also as complex combinations of necessary and sufficient conditions. They argue that case studies can also be useful in identifying the scope conditions of a theory, whether variables are sufficient or necessary to cause an outcome. Basic parts of a case study. Introduction. Identify the key problems and issues within the case study. Formulate and include a thesis statement summarizing the result of your analysis in 1 to 2 sentences. Background. Set the scene, background information, relevant facts, and therefore the most vital issues. Demonstrate that you simply have researched the issues during this case study. Evaluation of the case. Outline the varied pieces of the case study that you simply are that specialize in. Evaluate these pieces by discussing what's working and what's not working. State why these parts of the case study are or aren't working well. Proposed solution changes. Provide specific and realistic solutions or changes needed. Explain why this solution was chosen. Support this solution with solid evidence, such as concepts from class text readings, discussions, lectures, outside research. Personal experience. Anecdotes. After you've composed the primary draft of your case study analysis, read through it to see for any gaps or inconsistencies in content or structure. Is your thesis statement clear and direct? Have you provided solid evidence? Is any component from the analysis missing? When you make the required revisions, proofread and edit your analysis before submitting the ultimate draft. Case study research designs. As with other scientific methods, no single research design dominates case study research. Case studies can use a minimum of 4 sorts of designs. First, there could also be a no theory first sort of case study design, which is closely connected to Kathleen M. Eisenhardt's methodological work. The second sort of research design highlights the excellence between single and multiple case studies, following Robert K. Yin's guidelines and extensive examples. A third design deals with a social construction of reality, represented by the work of Robert E. Stake. Finally, the planning rationale for a case study could also be to spot anomalies. A representative scholar of this design is Michael Burawoy. Each of those 4 designs may cause different applications, and understanding their sometimes unique ontological and epistemological assumptions becomes important. However, although the designs can have substantial methodological differences, the designs can also be utilized in explicitly acknowledged combinations with one another. Case selection and structure. An average, or typical case, is usually not the richest in the information. In clarifying lines of history and causation, it's more useful to pick subjects that provide a stimulating, unusual, or particularly revealing a set of circumstances. A case selection that's supported representativeness will seldom be ready to produce these sorts of insights. When selecting a case for a case study, researchers will therefore use information-oriented sampling, as against sampling. Outlier cases, that is, those which are extreme, deviant, or atypical, reveal more information than the doubtless representative case, as seen in cases selected for more qualitative safety scientific analyses of accidents. A case could also be chosen due to the inherent interest of the case or the circumstances surrounding it. Alternatively, it's going to be chosen due to researchers' in-depth local knowledge, where researchers have this local knowledge they're during a position to soak and poke, as Richard Fenno put it, and thereby to supply reasoned lines of explanation supported this rich knowledge of setting and circumstances. 3 sorts of cases may thus be distinguished for selection. Key cases. Outlier cases. Local knowledge cases. Whatever the frame of reference for the selection of the topic of the case study. Key, outlier, local knowledge, there's a distinction to be made between the topic and therefore the object of the case study. The topic is that the practical, historical unity through which the theoretical focus of the study is being viewed. The thing is that theoretical focus, the analytical frame. Thus, for instance, if a researcher were curious about U.S. resistance to communist expansion as a theoretical focus, then the Korean War could be taken to be the topic, the lens, the case study through which the theoretical focus, the thing, might be viewed and explicated. If you find this of value to you, subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep updated with the latest post. Thanks for watching.